Two. Hey everybody, welcome back to Red Road Paranormal. I'm Christina. I'm here with my co-host Rez and our very special guest Hero, who is back with us again. He was here with us at the beginning of season one. Now we have him back at the beginning of season two. And we're going to talk about all kinds of fun stuff. He's got some good stuff coming up. And before we get to that though, remember to subscribe, ring the bell, hit the like, share, 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 share. Let's get some people in here so we get enough people going to do a live, because that would be a lot of fun. Okay, Rez, over to you.
What's up, everybody? Your favorite Resneck here. Just want to say hi. Thank you for tuning in. And please, special welcome to our friend Hero. It's amazing to have him back, my friend. How you been?
Been pretty good. Glad to be back, guys. Glad to see some familiar faces here. And it's been a wild ride so far, and it's just pretty much ever growing. And looking forward to our conversations we're going to have today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am
So,
too.
I wanted to talk star people with you. You know, everyone wants to talk at skinwalkers and everything else. We went down that road already. I want to know from your end of the map, what's the take on star people with your nation?
Ahoo, yes. So I do have to ask this question because there's multiple different routes you can take with that. Now, the term star people, in certain tribes, especially in the Southwest area, we kind of refer to those as a different class of kind of spirits, beings who are placed up in the sky to take care of the stars. There's actual star spirits and star ceremonies, and we utilize the stars, those different aspects to be able to perform some of our other ceremonies. So there are those star people. Then there is more of kind of the modern day interpretation of star people of beings from beyond our realms and beings from beyond our world. And so, which one do you want to go for?
Let's go both.
Okay.
Or let's classify like this. We have star people and star nations.
Okay. That's a good, I
You
love
know,
that. That's awesome. So,
so
oh, let's go ahead and I guess we'll talk first into the traditional aspects of the stars. So, when it comes to in the Navajo culture, the stars were put up there, the ones that we see anyway right now, were placed up there in a very particular manner. There are certain aspects of the star, certain constellations that were placed to be able to guide us, to have stories and teachings up there, and there's certain deities that were in charge of that. And there's also a very particular deity that came in to kind of ruin all that. Very familiar with a lot of tribes. Mai, in our language is what it's called, but in English, the coyote is the one who came in and kind of ruined that organization of stars and threw all the stars up there and kind of put the fires up there. So that's kind of what we see today. But the concepts of the star, the star spirits, we're calling them the Star Nation, right? And the ones that are the spiritual beings of that aspect. Going back to the first world, they say when the world was kind of being formed and the world was being created, the creator had before him an aspect of kind of thinking almost like a chamber. It's like, okay, what am I gonna make? What am I gonna create here? And so the first thought that he had was light, and that aspect and that talking of and that light was birthed, and behind it, shadow and darkness. And so the cousins and aspects of this particular spiritual being that was birthed, you have the light, the dark, and the creator there, and they were kind of like the creator's servants, the ones that kind of helped him and kind of helped perform certain aspects, certain deeds, and then from them there was birth other beings and there certain aspects. And in the first world, they made, in the net creation story, there were huge, huge towers of crystals that were on the ends of the black world. See, this world didn't have the sun, it didn't have the moon, it didn't have what you're familiar with seeing nowadays. It was a world that was just darkness. And they say back then it was a world of spirits and a world of insects. That's kind of where the insects really came from. And a world of poisons, a world of pretty much darkness. And the only light would come from these towers, like crystals. and there were in there the fire and the light that was utilized by that first light being. And he has found so okay, time went on, and there's a bunch of stories that lead up from that world all the way up into the fourth world that we're currently in now. But when they were kind of looking into the sky, there was a little bit of like, there's not quite any way to tell where we're going when the sun goes down, and when the moon comes up it's still kind of hard to tell where we're going. So they went back down to the first world and got some of the fires from those crystals, and that's the same fires that they utilized to put into the stars. And to be up there, you have to be able to take care of the fires. You have to have that grandfather fire poker. You have to have someone who's a fire keeper. And so birth that nation of spirits, of those beings who are up there and maintain the stars, who can move the stars, and who are able to actually see the world below us. And that's actually where we get into the concept of certain people being dreamers, kind of people who have visions, who have deja vus, who have an intuition and somehow can like tell the future in a sense a little bit. And they say when you have those gifts, those particular gifts, you have that connection to the star nations, the star spirits, because they are able to see how your path is going to go, how your life is supposed to be laid out, and they'll see how that is. Now, all our paths aren't written in stone. We can change it, or certain life moments can adjust our path. But for the most part, there's a certain way that you kind of live your life. And then this holy people see that. And that's kind of your predetermined path a little bit. And so if something were to come across your way, let's say something bad might be happening and you have to be warned, hey, something's coming. So the star people will send messengers. That's where they'll send the coyote, they'll send the crow, they'll send the mountain lion, the deer. And usually those beings will cross your path. Even beings from the death world, like the owl in our culture, though that when that lands on your home, they're warning you that, hey, death is going to be coming. It's a future telling of something's out there that might be coming into your path. And so you give offering to those spiritual beings, you give offering to those animals saying, thank you for warning me. And take that message, and it's not going to happen because I received the message and my path's going to be good from here. So that's kind of that interaction, and very, very holy spirits up there, very holy, strong nation that are up there, and very, how do I say, very important to a lot of our ceremonies and a lot of our cultural beliefs.
All right, I'm going to take a left turn here as I'm listening to you. And you're saying that they send, animals as messengers. I was driving home from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan last night. It's dark. A mother, a doe, and two fawns crossed my path on the road, and then one of the fawns turned around and went back to the other side of the road. Okay, fast forward a little bit further. Well, I don't know, probably an hour or more. And my friend who was riding with me said, animal, and I hit the brakes. And is like the biggest skunk I have ever seen waddled across the road in front of me. And I'm like, okay, I asked you to keep the animals out of the road, and here we are, right? Keep going. Maybe an hour or more later, a wolf runs across the road in front of me. All three in the same night? I need some insight here. Do you have any?
Well, did you ever stop and give offering to the first one?
I did not stop, but I did give a
Those star
thank
people are
you.
like, you need to listen. Here, up. Nope, kept
Yeah.
going. Somehow, oh, she needs another message. Oh,
Yeah.
hold on, she needs another message.
But the funny thing
Another
is, a
powerful
skunk
one.
is my spirit totem animal.
So
Skunk
they're
is my
trying to get a
spirit
hold of
animal.
you. They're trying to get a hold of you.
Oh, they
Yeah,
sure
they're
are.
they're trying to slow you down for a reason.
I was already going way below speed limit. I'll tell you.
There's
No,
some
but
reason you left too early.
Oh, maybe I did. Yeah,
maybe
maybe.
maybe gotta stop off and get something to drink or something like that at a gas station or something.
Trying to tell you to get
But
out and stretch or something.
Oh, the first
yeah,
place where we found anywhere safe to pull over, we did. But yeah,
right. No,
yeah.
but yeah, very very much so. Pay attention to that because
Hmm.
definitely like we always like us, we carry around Tadandi. Actually have it over here. So in this pouch in here, we have corn pollen, and it's
Okay.
very important to us to Navajo people. And so whenever a spiritual animal usually crosses our path, when we can, we'll pull over and we put the corn pollen on their paw prints if it's like a coyote, or like the hoof prints if it's a deer. If it's like an owl or something, we'll usually just sprinkle it up in the air, and then we just give the offering, say thank you for your message. I have received it. And it's like text message received. It has been read, and you
Right.
send a message back saying,
Well,
okay.
I did say not text message
Mhm.
received, but thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's
But
Acknowledgement.
yeah, I
that's a
did
good.
acknowledge, but I didn't actually pull over where there's no shoulder on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere to make an offering because, I still want to be safe and keep my friends safe. So,
And that's the practical thing too, is
yeah.
that a lot of times we're going down the interstate, sometimes 75, 80 mile an hour, depending on where you're at. And
Hmm.
it's very hard to pull off to the side and try to find their tracks. So I'm the spirits, I'm pretty sure, are very like keen, like, okay, they can't stop. That acknowledgement is key. And then usually too, it may not be something immediately in your path.
Right.
Maybe when you get to your destination and you saw three signs right there, like, whoa, okay, this is something super serious. So
Right.
then you go home and then you almost do like a ceremony for yourself. You give some cedar, or however your tribes kind of decide to do that blessing offering. It's like, okay, I need to do an offering, or even
Yeah.
go to a medicine person and be like, hey, these things happened. I know it's a sign. Can you at least say a prayer for me or something? That's usually kind of the process of going, because something's usually happening in your life that they're saying, hey, watch out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned about going down the highway. That's usually when I see them.
Yes.
A lot of times it's hawks and eagles. So I'm
Yep.
grabbing a
Saw
cigarette
those
out of my
too.
pack,
Yeah.
hurry up, breaking up a cigarette, open the window. Hey, here you go. Thanks a
Right.
lot. I appreciate it. Can't stop right now, but I just want you to know, thank you.
For sure. Yeah, with,
Yeah.
with all like practical sense and safety, the spirit people are not dumb, but they can be stubborn, but they're not dumb
Yep.
to things like that. But
Right.
that's where you just kind of play it by ear, play it by your gut, because it is your gut that's going to tell you, hey, maybe I need to pull off somewhere safe, or it's not quite safe here, I'll do an offer when I get home. And just that
Hmm.
acknowledgement, that small simple prayer like what you did is
Yep.
perfectly fine. Be like, hey, I can't stop right now, but when I get home, I'm going to give an offering as thanks for warning me, and then follow through with it,
Hmm. Yeah. Interestingly enough, before we got on the road, we stopped to get gas, and I looked at a pouch of tobacco and went, I don't have any with me. I should probably get some. And then I forgot to do it.
Yeah. That's the spirit nudging you. Hey,
Yeah,
that
I
looks
knew it, but
good.
then I went to the ladies' room and I forgot.
Yeah, yeah. That's like those little kids asking their grandma for a toy.
Yeah, I
Right.
know, right?
Hey, over there,
Over
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 there,
there,
there.
fella.
tobacco, please, tobacco. Yes, I'll see. Yeah, he
Yeah.
knows.
And I didn't have my bundle with me. I mean, my prayer bundle with me, so I didn't have tobacco. Although my friend smokes, and I didn't think about that. I didn't think
Ah,
about it.
Hey,
shame on
give me
you for
one.
that one.
I just didn't think of it. I'm
What
like,
we'll do sometimes too at UTS, if we're
yeah.
driving down the interstate and we can't pull over and something happens, we'll nudge each other. Hey, light one up. Do that prayer for us real quick. We just ran across this, and so one of us smokes. So one of us will
Right.
do the offering.
Yeah, there is no lighting up in my car. That's not happening. That's no.
Hurry, real quick, real quick.
You can tear one apart and make an offering out the window, but you are not lighting up in my car.
Oh,
See, that's why we don't travel to events
That's
together.
why we don't go to events together. We'll meet there, but we don't travel together
Yeah,
because he needs to
definitely.
smoke and I might die if he does. So,
Yeah, it's either smoke or start strangling people or running them over.
yeah.
with
My
any motor
Equinox
drivers
just is not
nowadays.
right. My Equinox is just not big enough to run them over anymore. It's too small.
You don't have that bumper guard in front no more.
No, I don't have the deer guards.
No,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I covered a lot of topics in that
you
little.
you
did, you
did, but
did.
that one caught my attention.
Yeah. So now when we talk like off planet, what's
Yeah.
what's your
So I'm about
thoughts
to.
on that?
So this one I have to be careful of, because there's certain teachings that some humans aren't meant to know yet.
Yep.
Um, just in relation to the spirit world and things. But kind of the broad sense of it is that there are other creations out there. There are other beings out there who have created things, and there are other realms of those creations that were made before us. We're a young creation. We're a young spirits in this world, and we're innovative. We have that creator mindset. We create ourselves. We look at us. We're making AI. We made technology to communicate long, vast distances. And so when we have that intuitive imagination, more so than any of our other like animal brothers and sisters, and so we have that aspect of the creator, and then other creators have also made aspects of that for their spiritual beings that they've made as well in their creations. And the worlds connect by one means or another. And some are a little bit older than us, a little bit more advanced. And so there is beings out there that traverse in the star worlds, that traverse those star spirits, and they have a little bit more sacred knowledge. They have a little bit more of an advancement to them. And so it's a very strong belief in quite a few cultures and in quite a few indigenous cultures, and then quite a few stories that come out of there even before technology was around. And yeah, it's an amazing tales for sure.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what more do you want to know?
I want to know, have you had direct contact with an ET?
uh I wouldn't want to say. I will say one thing. There's something that some interactions that I've had that are not even explainable through the spiritual world sense of things. And one particular deals with the balloon, which is really weird. And I don't know if I should go into that tale.
Oh, please,
Wait,
the weirder the better.
wait. A balloon? We're not talking it now, are we? You got a clown following you? Do I need to come
See,
down?
here's the thing. I've always hated clowns as a little kid. Like indigenous clowns are fine, but for some reason, the clown at like Circus, I cannot deal with those clowns.
Welcome to the club, buddy.
No bozos for you, huh?
Or,
Right, right. So
All right. I tell you what, I'll get my tomahawk out of the car. I'll come be your security guard for you.
okay. I need that. No, so like this kind of started out a few years ago. I was living actually in Amarillo, Texas, and kind of being away from the sacred mountains. I always make sure that we put up a lot of protections of wherever I'm staying at, if I'm staying there for a long period of time. So we set up a lot of different protections. We bless the home, pretty much the whole 9 yards, to make sure when I lay my head down, I can get some sleep and I don't have to worry
Yeah.
about things coming around. Um, and it's been very effective, and I'm thankful for the knowledge that I've been given in the ceremonies to provide that protection for me and my family. And there are a couple times where I guess security has been breached is kind of the way to say. And one particular time was we were staying there in Amarillo, and I just got done with a knee surgery, so I wasn't like in tip top shape or anything, and I was laying there, and my son had a birthday party, and so he had some balloons that were we had tied, and we tied it really tight to his chair because he has a fan and everything. And we don't at that time we didn't have the fan on, we didn't have anything on, we just went to sleep. Somehow in the middle of the night, I remember just hearing a bump, and I opened my eyes and there's a balloon in my face, and it says happy birthday. I was like, what? and and I was like, what's going on? We tied this thing up, and then we go and it's still tied. It wasn't untied. And so how did this get like away from the chair? Because it still has its tie. It's not. This was floating there, and then we tried like the AC. We turned on everything exactly the same, and it never moved outside. For some, it ended up going down the
He's
hallway.
freezing up on us. Oh, he's back. He's back.
Am I back? Am I back? Okay, what was the last
You're
thing you
back.
heard?
No, we're hearing most of it. Most of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So
so it was still tied up. You know, you're inspecting it. You know,
inspecting
that's
it, it goes down the hallway and all the way down into our room and then right in front of my face. And I'm like, I have no idea why it's there, what it's doing there. And it was intense, and it was a little bit scary because it's like something infiltrated, because there's no conceivable way why everything was still tied up and it was still moving around. So I'm like, okay, weird. I made sure I did a prayer, did everything that I had to do, nothing else really happened after that. Fast forward about 3 years later, and we're in the place I'm in right now in Arizona, states away. And I'm here by myself. My wife and my son go back to the in-laws, and I'm here by myself. And again, in the middle of the night, I get waking up with a balloon by my face. Here's the thing: we didn't have balloons or a party in my home. And I was like, no way.
Wow.
You want to know what I'm experiencing over here as you're talking about this? My
What's that?
nose is starting to itch,
Mine
and I'm
too.
hearing trickster in the back of my head, left, just loud.
And
You
that's the
know,
thing.
so
It's
Yeah.
like I have certain protections up there against jokers and in Lakota culture they call hayokas, things that go
mhm.
backwards. And so even then we're supposed to be protected from those. But that's where I was thinking like it could be a trickster from
One
something
slip
not from
through.
this creation that somehow is able to come through. And itonsa chokokski, and they say when that happens it's like they're counting coup. They go in there and say, I can touch you and I'm not going to do anything to you. I'm not going to hurt you or harm you, because they could have totally harmed me. I was I was like totally unprotected at that time. I was like, okay, you could have totally done something to me. But instead, they brought that balloon and was like, hey, I'm here and just let you know I got in and they bailed. So it's like, they just counted coup on me. I feel a little demoralized here.
Wow. That's really interesting.
So as far as for like alien and like out of this world kind of thing, I would chalk that up to that, because I tried everything I could to figure out if it was spiritual, and even doing ceremonies and asking medicine people, they could not figure it out either. So I'm like, oh, I guess we'll chalk that up as something beyond our creation that's not affected by our protections. And so,
Well,
okay, interesting. But as far as for like seeing crafts, or seeing something weird in the sky with advanced technology, I would say my great grandmother has a my late great grandmother, she has a great story. um and I'll probably tell that after I tell mine, because hers is a lot better than mine. um I was in Holbrook, Arizona at the time, just sitting at the balcony, the second story balcony, and where I was just kind of staring out at the stars. And I was talking to a friend who was all the way in Idaho, and so we were just kind of chatting it up, and I'm just looking at a star, and then he's looking at a star, and we kind of like point out to say, "Can you see this star?" Yeah, I can see the star, and it kind of makes that interesting like connection, like we're looking at the same thing here celestially. And what's wild is I'm there on the phone just chatting it up, and I'm watching this plane. I'm watching the plane kind of go towards the star. I'm like, okay, cool, it's a plane, it's a plane. And then all of a sudden, the star that we marked that we're kind of looking at, the plane goes to it, and then like a spotlight shines back, like you see it, like it gets brighter,
hmm,
and then it comes back, and then when it goes back, this star is gone, and
huh.
then it like takes the place of the star, and then it looks like this is the light of that star took off. And so I'm like, as that process was happening, I said, hey, are you seeing the same thing I'm seeing? And he's like, what is going on with the star? And it's like the plane, I thought it was a plane, swap places with this star, and it's like, all right, you're done with your watch. I'm taking over now. I'm
Yeah,
like,
shift
what
change.
is that? And so that was the weirdest thing that kind of I've seen in the sky as far as like craft related. And yeah, I couldn't explain that. It could have been maybe an optical illusion, but here's the thing: he saw a plane doing the exact same thing, and I'm in Arizona, he's in Idaho. What's the like the plane? There's no way to
Yeah,
see a plane in the same optical view of that. So it's like, okay, what the heck was that? So it was wild for sure.
the intergalactic shift change. That's what it was.
Yeah. Wow. That is
So
pretty intense.
for sure. Then my great grandmother has a good story too.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, so she's so my great grandmother, she passed away a couple summers ago, and she passed away of old age, and she was in her late 90s when she passed away. So she grew up on the reservation. She only knew Navajo, and until a few years ago, she didn't have any running water or electricity or anything like that. So she was completely living the old ways. But there's a story that's told that my grandparents talk about. They say when they were little kids, when this was back in the early 1900s, and back then they didn't have electricity, they didn't even have radios or anything back there at their place anyway, and
Yeah.
no comic books, no comic shops or nothing. But they would go out and sheep herd, and they'd take the sheep out, and there'd be a canyon that they would take the sheep to. Well, they brought they kind of let them out, and then they came back, and they're just kind of resting, and my great grandmother was making lunch. And as she's outside by the fire making lunch, she yells at the kids. They're kind of playing around the hogan. She yells at them, get inside, hurry up. She sees something. And so the kids run inside the hogan and she's yelling at them. The kids don't know what's going on. And she grabs a shotgun. She has a shotgun that's just chilling by the front for her front entrance. And she
Typical res house.
typical res
As you
house, she has a
do.
shotgun,
Yeah.
and she grabs it with one hand and pumps it with one hand. She always does that. She doesn't use two hands. She always uses one hand. She
Way to
pumps the
go,
shotgun,
Granny.
right? Well, at this time she was young. She was in her, I think, like her 20s or early 30s, and so
Yeah.
she was young still. So she pumped that shotgun and she went out. And my grandparents say that they heard and she was firing. She fired that shotgun a few times and they were freaking out what's going on. She came back in and she said, close the windows and just stay down. And they were like that for a little while. She had the fire going and she was praying with the fire, and they were curious as to what's going on. And the oldest one asked, what's happening? What's happening? There's something out there. It's going after the sheep. We have to stay in here. Okay, okay. And later on, my great grandmother tells a story that what she saw out there, and that's in the spiritual language. She says it in the Navajo language, but she basically says it's like a dog plate, a plate,
Hmm.
that's in the sky, and it came down to the sheep. And then when she started blasting at it, after she blasted at it, it went into the canyon. And so when the oldest one kind of heard about that and then said, stay out of the canyon and you just kind of just bring the sheep back if you can. She went out and helped bring the sheep back, and they put the sheep up and everything. They didn't really notice too much around the sheep, but the oldest one got curious and went to the canyon and then brought a couple of the other younger ones with them. And out there, there's a circle, like a burn mark, like a huge like fire circle, and it was just like the crops and or the everything there was like burned. And they were like, "What is this? What happened here?" But around on the outside of that burn mark was fresh vegetation growing, and out there where it was burned, they have sacred herbs that only grow in that area. And so,
Hmm.
kind of what they say and what my great grandmother tells them is that sometimes they'll come down and I have to shoot at them so they don't mess with the animals. But they'll go into the canyon. Once they go in the canyon, you leave them alone because they're just getting herbs, and then they leave us alone. And so that's what she talked about. She always say this is like the star people who come down and they get herbs and then they go and leave. And this is a woman who was not influenced by magazines, not influenced by any like modern day stuff at the time or the world's kind of broadcast or anything
Yeah.
like that. She was
Wow.
just described a plate.
Yeah.
And so it's always
Typical
amazing
flying
to hear those
saucer. Yeah.
stories, right?
That's
Yes,
incredible.
that is.
Wow. And seriously, nobody's great grandmother has a reason to lie about that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Like, yeah, that's incredible.
And her
That is.
warning is anytime they come down, just leave them alone. They're just here to get herbs.
Hmm.
And so I
They're
was like, yeah,
gathering.
that checks out. I mean, getting herbs. I mean, if we're a garden planet almost, they'll get
Pretty
what they
much, yeah. We
Yeah.
grow a lot here. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm wondering if we're just a giant ant farm.
You
They just
know,
right,
come and
right.
collect what they want.
we could be. Yeah.
Um,
That kind of tracks.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you guys ever seen that movie, The Fourth Kind. That movie has always gotten me. It takes place up in Alaska. And this lady, she's a doctor and she's doing like hypnotherapy and all that with her patients, and she records them. While the movie shows what's supposed to be real live footage with movie footage next to it. This one point towards the end of the movie, it's almost like she's being abducted. She's almost seizing out, but you can hear her talking. She goes, "Oh God." And out of her larynx, but a different voice comes out, goes, "I am your God." It's makes you wonder that Are we that ant farm? What's really being hidden from us from the truth from our ancestors?
Right, right. They always say too, the old stories, when the holy people were around making this world, they're making things how they were. They say eventually the holy people had to go into the next world. And the language I speak right now actually talks about this, or is the origin of this language. When the world was created, they spoke a particular language, and they were given these certain bits and pieces of these languages to the people that were of this world. Now, the Navajo story is when the holy people were ready to leave, the holy people took the voices from the animals. The animals used to be able to speak. They used to be able to communicate and voice their opinions on what they wanted the world of creation. But the holy people took their voices, took their ability to speak. And then before they left, they were going to take some of the language that the Diné people were going to speak. We were just going to be like the animals and just use very basic sounds to communicate. But the Diné Navajo people went to the holy people 4 times. 3 times they got denied, said, no, you're not keeping your language. We're taking that. And on the 4th time, they convinced them. They said, okay, we're going to give you a piece of that. And so that's what became Dinepizad, which is the Navajo language. And
Okay.
they said, we're giving you a piece of that. Now, when I went to the guardianship program, when I was learning the different aspects of the multiple tribes and being of that cultural exchange program, they say the language that I speak, is a language that they utilized back in the day from the world of creation. Hence why when we speak to ghosts or spirits or anything of that nature, especially on our SB7s or any of our devices, they speak back in that language. They say when you pass on to the next world, part of your journey is to learn that language, that spiritual language. And so to bounce back, those holy people left almost like they were of not this creation, of not our world, and they'll come back sometimes. So it's interesting to think about sometimes.
It is.
Wow. Yeah, I started kind of just going into like almost a trance while you were talking about that, and it kind of makes sense to me. I have recently been, I mean, I've been trance channeling for years, but recently I have had beings come through me who speak a spiritual language, and it is interesting because somebody recorded it for me. So I went back and I listened to it, and I'm like, I have no idea what that is. I don't know what that is. I don't recognize it. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I have channeled it a few more times since, and now it's starting to make more sense. Not that I can translate it directly into English, but it's energetically making more sense. So when you were talking, I kind of went into that, and I'm like, oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, but I couldn't possibly explain it in English in a way that makes any sense to anybody.
Even the way I explain it, it's not giving it due justice. Honestly,
I,
it's
I
not what it
agree. I
is.
mean, you're doing a really good job, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You can only do what you can do, you know?
Exactly. And there's so much when we kind of deep diving into that language, just your intent on what you're trying to say and what aspect of what you're trying to communicate with.
Right.
Um, so like talking about the fire here, there's different levels of the fire, different colors to it, different levels of heat. And
Hmm.
each level of that fire has a different name. So if you want to talk to the blue version of it, Astati. You want to talk to the red version of it, Kokanski. You want to talk to the yellow version of it, Tashchaki. Those are all different names of a fire. And then you go into the heat. You can talk about the different levels of heat. Kodtilti, Ansatsolti. And then you start going into the molecular aspects of it, of dealing with the gaseous states of burning of oxygen atoms. And indigenous, a lot of scientists don't really give indigenous people credit that we actually had that understanding a long time ago of down to the molecular level, understanding of even things of quarks, things of dealing with the space in betweens, the Higgs boson field. A
Hmm.
lot of those aspects was already in our traditional teachings, and even in our songs and prayers when we do our ceremonies, we acknowledge that level of in between, of that crossing of the spiritual world energies becoming physical, hence going through the Higgs boson field. So there's a lot of aspects that Leroy Little Bear, I believe his name is. He speaks a lot of really good seminars and talks about that. He's a physicist and a mathematician. He hung out with Albert Einstein back in the day, and they talked a little bit. So I think he's a Blackfoot, and he has some really good seminars about spiritualism and science, and how we kind of already knew even before science gave it a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always, this is kind of weird. My brother is all about the science and I'm all about the spiritual. And he will, every once in a while, he'll send me some kind of article about some big discovery. And I'm like, yeah, I told you about that 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Science is kind of the slow little brother of spirituality when it comes to explaining how things work, because I know it doesn't even really matter which tradition. There are traditions all over the world that have been explaining it for a millennia. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's definitely there. And so that's all of that's intertwined with the topic we're talking about, with the star people, the star nations, the holy people, languages, understanding science. And they understand it in a completely different way, and maybe even a lot more advanced way than we do, to be able to program and code everything to create our worlds. And so the theory of us being in an ant box, I mean, that's every religion. The creator made us and created us. So pretty much we are his ant box.
I kind of like the theory of we're a project on some alien kid's shelf, and like a C+ project kind of.
Did you feed your ants today? Oh crap.
Then you get a little water, a little thunderstorm coming through.
And then he picks it up and he shakes it and we have earthquakes. So,
Dropped it.
Damn, I forgot the light on. I wonder why, Alaska gets 24 hours of daylight.
Right. I don't like that. Change the light bulb.
It's a theory. It's a working theory.
It is. I wonder if when they fly past our planet, if they lock the doors. Like, nope, we don't.
Well, if they're smart, they probably do.
They haven't evolved enough.
I'm always curious about the crash sites, and like who messed up and like let the drunk kids drive the spaceship.
I was going to ask you about crash sites. You brought it up on your own.
All right. See, we're all picking up on each other now.
I was going to ask you about like Area 51. I mean, like, are those crashes real? Have you,
I honestly haven't been anywhere long enough to be able to say whether or not they're real. I know for sure that there are things being tested that are way beyond what we have now, and technology is advanced way beyond what is available to the public now, and so I completely believe all that. And then I just kind of reaching into physics book, things that I cannot even understand, that these scientists, their level of comprehension compared to the common folk is super beyond. So I wouldn't put it past our own people to have certain technologies like that. And one thing too is we're really good at dissecting and reverse engineering.
Yeah.
So if we did get our hands on something and do a little bit of reverse engineering, it's not beyond the concept of, hey, they got a hold of something and learned a lot from it, hence our phones and the experiments that happened that proceeded to where we are now.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting how we've so quickly advanced.
Yeah.
As a
something had to spark
species.
it.
Yeah. As a species,
I'm still upset that we don't have I'm so upset we don't have quite hoverboards like how in Back to the Future was, like readily available at Walmart.
That would have been fun.
Where are the flying cars?
Where are the flying cars? Come on.
Yeah.
Well, I have seen some specials. They're trying to make them. But then you're gonna need a pilot's license.
Yeah.
I'm already halfway there. I got a drone license.
All right.
Pilot's license is still on my bucket list. So I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah. There you go.
I still want to skydive.
Right.
Jump out of a perfectly good airplane for no reason.
I mean, like, what does it feel like to fly like a spirit, or how do the birds feel? Except
Yeah.
they can fly up. We can't per
Well,
se.
maybe if we like arch our backs or something a little bit, catch a little bit of that air.
Let me get one of those wingsuits.
There you go.
And if you're good
One
at
to squirrel.
visualization and astral travel, you can experience what it feels like. It's
It's gotta
just
come to
not
an end though.
physically doing it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, that's what I want, the physical side of it.
I'll come back as a
Oh,
bird next time.
there we
Nah,
go.
too much work.
There you go. I am really enjoying this conversation. I very much enjoyed the teachings on the star people, and I love hearing the native language spoken, your native language spoken. I have a friend who very often shares the stories partly in Ojibwa and partly in English, and I appreciate that too. And I just really want to thank you for being here and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom. And you are a consummate storyteller. And
Oh,
yeah, it takes a lot to be a really great storyteller, and you are very, very good at it. So thank you for sharing your stories with us.
oh,
Very.
it's been a
Yes.
pleasure. Yes, it's an
Thank you. Carrying on the traditions.
mhm.
Mhm.
As
Yeah.
much as I can, here to teach and also here to learn. I have a lot of learning still left to do. I'm going to be learning well beyond my time on this earth. So,
Yeah.
Kyo, thank you for having me. Thank you for listening. Thank you to all you listeners out there for taking the time to hear some of these stories.
Yeah. And tell us about uh un wait, one. What is the name of
Unearthing the
You got it
supernatural.
there.
that's,
You got
you
it
know, I
there.
wrote that down and my brain would not wrap around the word unearthing. Like, unearthing, I have it written down. I'm like, unearth, what? What is that word?
We're not from
Unearthing
this
this.
earth.
It took me a few months
We're
to
on
remember
earth.
it when I first started watching, okay?
Like, I'm trying to read it and
It's
I'm
that
going,
unique.
is that a word? All right, so tell us about unearthing the supernatural.
So, Unearthing the Supernatural, we're an Indigenous paranormal investigative group. And what we utilize kind of some of the more modern technology, some of the tools you're familiar with on shows like Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, things that you're familiar with seeing, kind of more modern day stuff. But then we also blend it with a lot of our traditional teachings, or songs, or ceremonies. Myself, I'm an ordained medicinal person, a guardian of the High Council, hence why the tattoos, and also the little bit of the knowledge that we like to share with that. And so the biggest thing is we kind of saw the need for the to kind of show people how indigenous people have interacted with the spirits, and how we've always been interacting with spirits, because it seems like on those shows and what's getting popular lately, there's not enough representation out there. So I wanted to be able
Yeah.
to showcase, like, hey, this is where we're from, Turtle Island. This whole aspect is us. So why don't
Yeah.
we show them how we interacted with spirit? Show them even before the colonizers came over. Let's show them how we've always done things, and hopefully that might explain some instances of maybe some spiritual happenings somewhere, help someone on their journey, and just kind of show them, like, hey, this is the offerings, this is the songs, this is the respect, the level of respect you got to have when you interact with these spiritual beings. And then we try to do it with a little bit of flair. We try to do it with a little bit of, like, we're learning how to edit, we're learning how to tell good stories, and visually have a good story, so that way, maybe in hopes of the children one day seeing, like, oh, that's really cool what they're doing, get that cool factor, that's so cool. Yeah, that's cool. Go talk to your elders. Go talk to your medicine people. They can teach you very similar things, how to interact with
Yeah.
spirits. Learn your language. When you learn your language, when you know the songs and ceremonies, this is the type of interaction you're going to get. The spirits acknowledge you. The spirits are willing to teach you, and they're able to help you out on your journey if so you need it. So that's kind of the goal with Unearthing Supernatural, is kind of showcase that, have that representation out there, and just let the spirits tell their stories.
And where do we find unearthing the supernatural?
Unearthing Supernatural. You can find us right now on YouTube. That's kind of where we mainly live. All our episodes, teachings, videos. We'll have some shorts. You can also find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. We were on X for a little bit, but But we're also developing a Patreon. We're developing a Patreon account. That one's going to be where we're going to host a little bit more like private chats, or a little bit more kind of like some of our sacred teachings that we have we can't share. Like you'll never see a full song, you'll never see a full prayer in its entirety, just to protect its sacredness, and to make sure that we're taking care of our culture as well, and not just exploiting it. And so methods of teaching, methods of giving out information, especially sacred information, is usually best in a private setting, um, preferably in person. But if you can't make it in person, there's certain things that you can say in private.
Mhm. That's beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. Rez, what else you got?
Well, as we talked before, there's a card game you play with the spirits in one of
Oh,
your episodes. Want to tell us a little bit
Odaka.
about that?
Yeah, so Odaka is what it's called. And those are kind of going back a little bit into this earlier in this episode when we were talking about how the animals and how the spirits and everyone were kind of making the worlds and how it was. Well, when the animals could still talk and the spirit people were still kind of shaping things, a lot of gambling took place, a lot of bets and a lot of wagers happened. And so some beings got really addicted to it, some beings lost a lot of things. And so gambling became a really strong pastime of the spirit people. And so it's also a way to be able to make deals spiritually. And I'm not saying like a deal with the devil, but like, hey, I bet you if I can do this, I'm gonna do this. And that's actually kind of how a lot of the world was created. You have the monster slayer twins of our Navajo creation stories, who proved to the sun god said, if you can prove you're my children, then I'll give you whatever you want in this home. Hence where they proved they were his children, and they got the bow and arrow, and then they got the feathers to be able to get rid of the monsters. It was a gamble. It was like, if you can do this, I'll do it for you. It was a gamble. And one of the games that we played, Odaka. And that was actually kind of talking about the moon phases and the different phases of cycles. And so that card game came about to be able to gamble and wager. So the kind of the thought process of it is almost like highest card, who has the highest value card. And what you would do is you would have the 9 moons, you would have basically 2 sets of cards that have different value sets, and you would have them face down. And it was a game that the spirit people would utilize, people who are intuitives, and even the star people, those that can see beyond the stars, who really had a gift. It's almost like a challenge. I bet you I have a higher hand than you. How much are you willing to wager? I'll wager this, that my hand's better than yours. Eventually, it's like, hey, I think your hand's better than mine. How much would it take if I were to trade up with you? And trade, and then you'd see who has, at the end of it, you'd all flip your hands and see who has the highest hand. And that person would usually win based on the deals that were made in between. And so that particular game that we played, it was so exciting to have the spirits wanting to play Odaka, and
Yeah,
it how they played it with the flashlight was
that
was,
was
was
cool.
truly awesome. They said, okay, I want to keep that hand, I want to trade that hand, and they were able to make those hands. And eventually we proved our power levels because our intuitiveness was able to determine that we tied. And so it was really cool.
You know,
That sounds amazing.
it is. I loved watching it. It really got me thinking. It's something that I wouldn't mind actually trying in the future.
For sure. And like I was saying, it's a game that the medicine people nowadays would try to play, and they would say, how strong is your connection to the spirit world? Out of all these cards that are face down, can you pick the highest hand? And the highest hand was a 20. And so 2 face cards pretty much, or 2 10s. And if you can get your highest hand combined, then you kind of proved your intuition. You can see beyond the cards, you can see through it. And so that was kind of the base of that game, is test your intuition. Do you know what these are? And and a little bit more of like an educated guess.
Mm.
Cool. Um, I am getting notifications that my internet is unstable.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
So,
You're still pretty clear on my end.
Right?
well, yeah, I had a thing flash up on the screen that said your internet is unstable. So I'm just letting you know that we either should probably wrap it up or I could disappear at some point. I'm not sure what's going to happen here.
Disappear down the rabbit hole.
Down the
we-
rabbit hole. Yeah, kind of live
we
down the
can't
rabbit
lose
hole.
you. This is
Right,
only the
right.
first episode of season 2. I don't have any backup co-hosts. You
That's what
know,
happens when you talk about star people. It's like, hey,
Right.
hold on there.
Right, right.
so
But
unless Hero's gonna fill in for the next 16 weeks, then sorry, no rabbit holes for you, my dear.
no rabbit holes for me. Dude, I live in a rabbit hole. All right. So thank you again, Hero. I really have enjoyed this conversation, and I know our listeners are going to as well. Again, subscribe, ring the bell, like, share, invite. Let's get this ball rolling so we can do some lives. And thank you again, and we'll see everyone next week. Bye.